But it's going to happen, that at some stage she decides that she likes your friend and you maybe like her friend more, or there's going to be like this kind of like swap time, and you're like, fuck, what should I do? Should I just go for the one that I initially wanted, or should I just kind of let it happen? Okay. Now, the age-old rule: whoever opened the set, it's essentially their call. Okay. So if they really, really like one girl, and they don't have any interest whatsoever in the other girl, then it is essentially their call. Okay. And they're entitled to whoever they want in terms of, being fair. Having said that, that is generally something that someone that's not really living a life of abundance with girls would sort of come down to. It's like, no, man, this one's mine. I opened first, da-da-da-da, okay? But, there are a couple of classic times with Alex and me, right, where we've talked to girls at a bar down the road. We've taken them back. We've kind of like, been doing this sort of, mingling or deciding who likes who. And in fact, there were so many times it happened. I remember one time there was, this girl that Alex was sort of into, and we took the two girls back, and then kind of I decided that I really liked that one, and she was more interested in me, I would say. And yeah, I ended up pursuing that one, and he kind of like tried to do a swap, but it didn't really work. And sometimes there can be a little bit of tension around that, but do we really care that much? No, we don't, because then the last night we were in Sydney together, we pulled, me and Erin Erin and I should say, pulled three girls back. Erin left with one, and then there's two girls sitting on the couch with Alex and I, and the hotter one was sort of into me all night, but then she turned, and there was just this moment where we're sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden her eyes are on Alex, okay, and I can sense that actually this one's kind of more on Alex, and the other girl was sort of on me, okay? So there's Alex and I sitting there. The one I initially wanted is sort of showing a little bit of interest in Alex, and the one that I wasn't so interested in is now showing interest in me, okay? So when the girls have kind of made that decision, you kind of just got to like let them have it, okay? So it's like, what are our options here? Do we really want, hey Lauren, how you going, brother? It's like, do we really want to both be like jostling for the same girl, leaving one girl on the couch and creating this like kind of awkward situation, or do we just want to go, it doesn't really matter, and for the greater good, kind of just like, what were your words there? Manifest more interest in him, okay, and sort of do that swap. You kind of just like, if that's like emotional swap happens, the key thing is to feel it, and then just go, alright, whatever, just do it anyway. And I ended up just picking the girl straight up off the couch, taking her to my room, and I left Alex with the hotter girl, and he, had a good time with her. And I was like, no worries, man. I probably owed you one from the other night where we did a swap that was in my favour. Here's a swap in your favour, okay? So I kind of like paid him back, and we had fun, and it was a happy night, and that's all there is to it, okay? So the key is to kind of go for what you want in the initial interaction, and technically it's whoever went and talked to them first kind of gets to make the call, but you don't want to, risk losing all of the girls if there's two guys like that are really focused on one, the other one isn't getting as much attention, and then she kind of like, just gets upset. So you kind of just want to be, it's always the group vibe over everything else, the group vibe. But that's going to happen. The other thing is to have excellent communication with your friend or wingman or whoever it is, and give subtle cues as to which one you're interested in, which one he's interested in, because otherwise you're going to have mix-ups, and he's not going to know. A lot of times I'll go into set and there's girls there, and I'll see that my mate's paying all the attention on one girl, right? So I'm like trying to observe, and I'm like, okay, he's interested in that one, and then I'll go and start talking to the other one that he's not talking to, and then later he's like, oh man, I like the one that you were talking to, and I'm like, really? You're just focusing all of your attention for a solid 5 to 10 minutes on the one that you weren't interested in? That's not really cool, and that's, you need to have better communication with your wing than that. And to the girl as well, like, if he's standing there talking to one girl for 10 minutes, of course the other one is not going to think that that she's interested, or she's going to feel left out. So the key is to have good communication with whoever it is you're doing, and be adaptable. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say about that, man. Yeah, if you're good and you're getting results, it won't really matter too much as well. You'll care less about the whole situation. So that's the kind of point you want to get to. Daniel, when you talk to a girl and then the boyfriend or friends appear, how do you handle the situation and what to say? Okay, excellent question. The way you want to do it is you want to let her be in charge of how it plays out, okay? So that is to say, if I'm there and I'm talking to a girl and a guy comes in, I continue talking to the girl, right? I'll tone it down a little bit. I won't, get super sexual or super deep or super emotional. I won't touch her because, this guy's just come in. I don't know who he is. Could be the dad, could be anyone. But I'll just continue talking as if I'm just a normal person there continuing the conversation, right? And I'll look to her to see her reaction and what she does, okay? If she gets all funny and she gets all weird and she's like, and she focuses her attention back to the guy, then you know that it's the boyfriend, right? Or it's a significant other. It could be the husband, it could be her ex, that they've just broken up, okay? And, he could become violent or whatever, you just don't know that. So let her, based on her reactions, then you'll essentially be able to figure out, okay? But I would pretend as if he's, not really there and continue the conversation, continue eye contact. If she freaks out and if she, sort of diverts attention back to him, she's like, starts looking at him, and then you can go, okay, sorry, I didn't realise, you guys were together, you must be a couple, right? I'll leave you to it, okay? You don't want to, if the boyfriend's right there, it's just not worth your while, like, fucking about and trying to deal with that, guys. So just move on to the next set or next girl. If you really like her, you can try and talk to her in a secluded area and you go, look, I really, really like you. Are you happy in your relationship? And go down that path. But if she's standing there, like, looking at the other guy, the boyfriend, and he's looking at her and she's paying all her attention to him and she's awkward, then it is essentially a boyfriend or a significant other, in which case, you can introduce yourself to him and you can go, oh, hey, I'm Ryan, how are you, what's your name, and talk to him. Or you can just politely excuse yourself and go, oh, sorry, you two, Or you can actually say, oh, sorry, are you two together, okay? And then that's really interesting because she may say yes, she may say no, and he may say yes, and then you can go like, sorry, I'm confused here. What's going on? But if she says no and he says yes, then feel free to keep talking to her and disregard him. Which comes to the next situation, which is if he's standing there and she's paying you attention and she's continuing to talk to you, then chances are she's not really that committed to him, or she's not really caring too much about him, in which case feel free to play it all out and feel free to hang in there, because chances are if she still maintains eye contact with you and she still is looking at you, then she would rather be talking and continuing a conversation with you, okay? Another really good way is to look down at her feet, where her feet facing. In any given situation, a woman's feet will generally be pointing towards who she is paying more attention to, or who she wants to be engaged with, okay? It's actually a very, very interesting social observation. Next time when you're out with a group of guys and girls, look at where a woman's feet are pointing. They're generally pointing towards where their interest is. Not 100% of the time, but about 90 to 95% of the time, a woman's feet will be pointing to where she's interested in. But yeah, if a guy comes back and she's not engaging him, feel free to go at it. That's a really clear indication of where she's at. But the thing is, yeah, the takeaway is to let her decide, okay? So you just, you kind of just tone it down, you're just normally talking, and you put the spotlight on her and see what she does. In fact, there's a very, very good example of it from myself when I was talking to a girl in the street, which is my mystery skater girl, which is actually a showcase or showpiece of the whole program that will probably be released a lot later on. Definitely check that one out. That's a really solid pickup. Anyway, I'm talking to the girl, and this like big greasy dude come in a shirt, and he's very well dressed, shirt, pants, comes walking down the street, and he comes up obviously with the intent to engage her, and I ignore him and continue to look at her, continue to maintain eye contact with her, she sort of looks at him a little bit and then turns back to me. And so for me, that's a key indicator, like, okay, this woman wants to continue talking to me. She's not interested in this guy. I didn't know who he was at the time. It could have been a boyfriend, it could have been the work manager. It could have been some other guy she was previously seeing. Okay, I didn't know that. All I did was I engaged contact with her still, and she gave me the clear signal that she wanted to continue talking to me. Okay, later on I found out that it was actually her boss, who was also a Lebanese mafia boss. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't do anything to get too carried away there, but you'll see in the footage. Definitely check that one out, guys. It's actually a really good example of what we just discussed. The guy essentially just, comes in, says his few words, stands there for about 3 seconds, shows himself out, and then walks down the street. So I was like, yes, victory. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Hope you guys have been getting a lot of value out of this. I really do enjoy talking about all this sort of stuff. Thanks for all the questions, guys. It's really good. Marco Lucas, how important is it to be witty, funny? I usually end up disqualifying myself because I don't believe I'm a particularly funny guy. Okay, the short answer to that is it's not important, it's not necessary, but it does help. It does help, okay? I definitely wouldn't disqualify yourself because you're not a particularly funny guy, okay? Don't do that. There's no reason you need to do that. What I would say is to a girl, if you're feeling that, is just say, I have like a dry sense of humour or a warped sense of humour. It will come out later or something like that. But you don't need to be witty and funny, but you do need to be somewhat interesting, right? So if you're not really that interesting, you can get away with being witty and funny. Overall, being funny will only get you so far. Being interesting will get you a lot further than just being funny, okay? If you have both, that's completely awesome. That's really, really good. So I would encourage yourself to work a little bit more on being funny. In fact, I myself have had to do this. I'm not a naturally funny guy. All my girlfriends, when I was a lot younger, said, yeah, your humour sucks, you're not funny at all. But, I slowly started working on it, found out what I thought was funny. Hey, Marco, you've just joined. We're just talking about your... I don't know if you dropped or if you just come back, but we're just talking about your question now, actually. So good timing if you've just joined us. Yeah, I was never a really funny guy growing up, but I learned to develop a little bit more wit and developed naturally what was within me and bring it out in a way that it was a little bit more funny, okay? Now, are girls going to think I'm a super funny guy? No, but there'll be times where I just, kill it in terms of the funny department, and that really works. But I've got the interesting to back it up. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit just because you've just joined. No, it's not important to be witty and funny, but it does help. If you're not witty and funny, then you do want to have something else there, which is interesting or engaging or deep emotional conversation, okay? So if you can do all of that, I would focus on that as your strong point. If you don't have any of those, then you are going to need to do some work. You're going to need to do a little bit more work on that to build it up. But you definitely don't want to disqualify yourself because that's, chicks will say, yeah, sure, I like a funny guy, but, is that going to fuck you up if you're not funny? Absolutely not, okay? I'm not very funny in my sets. I am engaging and I am interesting, though, and I'm connecting. So if you want, you can completely overlook the funny, or as I said, everyone is actually funny within themselves, right? It's just about finding out what is humorous to you and then conveying it in a way that makes it funny, okay? I've seen the most awkward of awkward people, and they'll just come out with something funny, and it's just because of their little insight or their little way about how they're seeing that. And it is in essence funny, okay? So you can definitely work upon making yourself funny, especially if it is something that you really feel is important or you want to work on that area. There's a ton of stuff where you can go out and look on developing humour that is funny to you, and it's that whole, self-amusement thing that girls will find attractive.